Hello and welcome to Criminal Record, the Daily Record's new weekly crime show. My name is Norman Silvestry and I'm the Daily Record's crime reporter. Our special guest today is Christine Fulton from Kilmarnock, a founder of the police charity COPS, Care of Police Survivors, which supports the families and loved ones of police officers across the UK who have been killed and injured in the line of duty, either at work or attending incidents. She founded COPS in 2003 after her own husband, Lewis Fulton, was murdered in the Gorbals in June 1994 while answering a 999 call. In 2008, Christine was awarded an MBE, and today she's here to talk about her work with COPS and the need to protect police officers from further attacks. Christine, welcome to Criminal Record. Tell us a bit about COPS and how long you've been running this charity and who you've been helping. Tell us a bit about it.
Okay, well, COPS is a peer support charity. So we support the families of police officers who have died on duty. Basically, I would put a mother in touch with a mother, a spouse with a spouse. We also support siblings, children, both younger children and older children, because obviously they have different levels of needs. And it just sort of grew organically from a very simple start when I thought that we would only be involved with recently bereaved. And we ended up with families who had lost their officer many years ago, but still had huge pride in them and wanted to remain a part of the police family.
So we're talking here about, obviously, the most horrible situation that you experienced was your husband who was killed and murdered on duty. But we're also talking about officers who may suffer, could be involved in a road accident on duty. They could have a medical incident and pass away while on duty. These are all officers who basically die while on duty, while attending incidents. It may not be the necessarily victim of assaults, but it could be other factors. That's what we're really talking about here,
Absolutely. Road accidents, as you say, medical incidents, heart attacks, brain hemorrhages. They don't have to actually be at an incident. They could be sitting at their desk, but if they are on duty, then they come under our criteria and we will do our very best to support their families.
I mean, we know of instances in the past in Scotland where officers have been injured while attending 999 calls, who've been involved in road accidents, that kind of thing. There's always that danger, isn't there? It's not just the danger of assault. There could be other factors as well, that could affect their safety.
Absolutely. No officer knows what an incident is going to turn out like. It could be the most routine call, but that doesn't stop somebody coming through a red light and hitting them or, anything like that. Just a simple fall. We've had officers die after falling downstairs.
They could be attending an incident or involved in a pursuit or a chase.
Yeah.
We'll come to this in a minute, obviously, with Lewis, but, obviously it's one of the few jobs where officers, male or female, they could be leaving the family home in the morning. You don't know if they'll come back, they'll come back safe and sound. It's one of the few jobs in that category, isn't it?
Yes. I've been asked many, many times what makes it so special. Why should the families be supported? And it's quite simple. Those officers put on their uniforms and they leave their families at home to go out and protect yours. And that makes that job unique.
We'll come back, we'll talk about obviously increasing risk to officers and increased number of assaults. But it is a job where they're at that risk of assault every day and they're dealing with maybe incidents they can't predict. I mean, it's unpredictability, isn't it, of their working day?
Yeah, it's a job like no other. They just do not know what that day is going to bring. And it could be somebody spits on them or shouts abuse at them, or it could be a full-on fight where they are physically injured. They just have no idea.
So care of police survivors, obviously, what he's dealing with officers who have killed or died in the line of duty. And you formed it in 2003, so you've been dealing a lot with families have lost loved ones since then. But also, you mentioned there that now incorporates more historical cases. Well, you've had a lot of families coming, but cases before 2003.
Oh, yes, far, far back. We had the grandson of an officer whose grandmother had been pregnant with his mother when her husband died. And even as a grandson, he never knew his grandfather, obviously. But he wanted to represent his mum. He wanted to pay tribute to his grandfather. And for the families, that pride is there. They're immensely proud of their police officer.
And obviously, you give a lot of support to families, because obviously if they lose a loved one, somebody dies and is killed in the line of duty, there's all sorts of implications. They've lost a breadwinner. There's no doubt financial implications as well. There's the mortgages to pay and all that kind of thing. Is that something you do as well? Try to help people out maybe the financial holes that might find themselves in?
Yeah, we can't help financially. There are other police charities that will do that, but we will signpost. We are in touch with many, many organisations. We know the people who can help. So if a family is struggling in that way, we know where to point them.
And obviously your charity is always looking for donations, and if people want to help or do any fundraising, more than welcome.
We are very grateful for every penny that is raised.
And obviously, people know that they do donate, it's going direct to a good cause. Most of the people, I believe, like yourself, are volunteers helping out.
Yeah, we now have a small office in Staffordshire with a number of part-time employees, but the majority of our work we do voluntarily. We have people all over the country who will go to events and do their best to support the fundraisers as well, because it's important that we show how grateful we are.
And also, I know there's been issues recently with recruitment, forces across the UK, across Scotland, or Police Scotland, struggling to get people to join. It's important that officers realise there's this kind of backup there, whether it's within the job or there's organisations like yourself helping out.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, death by criminal action in Scotland is very rare. Death on duty is very rare. So hopefully we are a charity that their families won't ever need. But there are many, many others that can support them in other ways. So, yeah, we are a big police family and we're all there for each other.
Now, you've also helped set up a memorial at the Scottish Police College in Tullyall in Fife, which is a kind of tribute, if you like, or a memorial to the 290 Scottish police officers or Scottish-based officers who have died while in duty. I think that's since 1812.
That's the furthest back, yes.
Yeah, further back. You've also helped set up a memorial at the Scottish Police College in Fife in memory of the 290 Scottish police officers who have died while in duty since 1812. Now, these will be officers, including Lewis, who have been, the rare number that have actually been murdered or killed while in duty, but also includes others who have died, again, while serving the public. Tell us a bit about that.
Again, as you said, it's officers who have died in Scotland. They're not necessarily Scottish officers. We have an officer from America, a Secret Service agent. We have a number of Metropolitan Police officers who are on the memorial because they died in Scotland. Criminal action, as I've said, is very rare, but sadly road accidents and natural causes are not.
I believe that was the American one. Was he part of the protection team for President Trump?
Yes, no Reagan.
In his first visit. And obviously, we know that police officers from other forces and abroad regularly visit Scotland on duty. Mm-hmm. So there's always a potential risk of incidents or events happening to them. So really, it's a memorial to all these officers who've given their lives to the job. Really, whether it be Lewis or others, that's really the kind of theme of it, isn't it? People giving service and giving their lives to the job.
Yeah, I mean, just a fortnight before Lewis was murdered, we had the Chinook helicopter disaster with all the officers from the RUC. And because of that, I have a particular affinity with those families. We've always been quite close. Obviously, they're going through quite a battle at the moment, trying to get their records opened as they've been sealed for 100 years.
So yes, I mean, these are ones that somebody we forget. You don't forget the numbers that died in the Chinook helicopter crash in Argyllshire, and as you see, that's still a matter of investigation and campaigns by the family. And it's quite, when you think about really the memorial, it is a lot, 290. Okay, we're not talking about officers who have been murdered or maybe dramatic incidents like Chinook, but it's just officers who they've gone home, they've gone out to work, they've not come home, and that's effectively what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. Research is ongoing. There are still names out there that we haven't found yet, but more and more newspapers go online, and that's a huge help in the research. But there are officers that we will just never know what happened to them, that they fell into the rivers or whatever, and in those days they had their big heavy greatcoats and they were just never seen again. So.
And it could be somebody, you mentioned that earlier, because somebody passed away at work, had a medical incident, a heart attack or something like that. You know, these are people, again, the stress and stress in the job, we don't know what necessarily leads to that, but it's again a factor of it. It's, if you see a job like no other where people go out in the morning, you don't know they're going to come back in the evening, and it's remembering that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So that was it. So we know there's 290 names on the memorial, but you would still like to see more added. So perhaps if anyone's out there got a relative or a family member who died, a police officer who died while on duty.
Yep. I mean, researching family trees is a big hobby now. Mm-hmm. So yes, if anybody comes across an officer, then please contact us. The details are on the website.
And again, there's no time limit. We go back to 1812. Anything, it's probably unlikely to be many police officers before that. But I mean, if you've got a name, come forward.
Yes, please. Yes, we're always delighted to hear.
Your husband Lewis, he died while in duty, was stabbed while in duty in June 1994. It's a Friday, June the 17th. He'd left the home that morning, Kilmarnock, going to start his shift. And it was called to an incident in the Gorbals area. He was attacked and stabbed and died several hours later in the hospital. What are your memories of that day? And I believe you were due to go on family holiday the next day. You were packing at the time when you heard the news. Just talk us through that. Yeah. Tell us what you remember of that day.
Yeah, we'd recently had a baby. Our son was 7 months old. So Lewis left that morning. He kissed me goodbye. He went into the baby's room and said goodbye to him. And we were due to go on our first family holiday the next day. So I continued with my packing. And a friend came round just for a quick cup of tea and a chat. And we got a phone call saying that he'd been stabbed. They said he was conscious and stable. At worst, they thought it was a punctured lung. They sent a car to collect me, which took me up to the hospital. I left the baby with my friend, who, as I say, was thankfully there at the time. Got to the hospital, spoke to a doctor who told me, again, that Lewis was stable. They gave me absolutely no cause for concern. And consequently, I didn't ask to see him. I just wanted them to get on and treat him, and the sooner they stitched him up, the sooner I could take him home, basically. He lived for 4 hours from being stabbed. And when they came and told me that he died, I was absolutely in disbelief, as, to be honest, was the surgeon. He said it was just the last thing he'd been expecting, because Lewis was talking right up until he went under the anaesthetic. But once he was asleep, he could no longer fight it. And the knife had pierced his heart. And that was it.
But just to recap a little bit, we're talking June 1994, so Friday, he's on duty in the Gorbals. He's called to an incident in the Gorbals that involves an 18-year-old, Philip McFadden, who's a diagnosed schizophrenic. He lives nearby. He's had an argument with his family. He's been threatened his brother. The police have been called to the address. He's ran off, and he's later spotted in the kind of shopping area where there's, if I remember, a couple of shops that have been shuttered up, and he's trying to kick them over. Lewis gets called to that incident, and then it's during that incident Lewis is stabbed, and another officer was injured as well. Lewis is then taken to the Victoria Infirmary, which is nearby. You get a call at home, but I think initially you were told it was just he'd been involved in an accident. You were maybe thinking it was something quite minor at first. Would that be?
No, I was told straight away he had been stabbed, but as I said, they said he was serious but stable. Mm-hmm. Nobody gave any cause for concern. As you say, McFadden he was imagining that his brother was attempting to kill him. He used to, he was lifting his jumper up to show his family his imaginary stab wounds, things like that. His mum tried to get the help of a doctor, but the doctor wouldn't attend without the police. And when the police came to the house, he bolted into the street. He came upon a sergeant who he stabbed and badly injured. And it was then that the call was escalated and officers came from all over. And Lewis was one of the first on the scene.
When he went to the hospital, I think, as you said, his description was stable, serious but stable.
Yeah.
And you would have no cause for concern. We allow the doctors to get on with their job with the surgeons. But I believe that it was during when they started the surgery that they realised that the wound was more serious.
Yes, once he was under the anaesthetic, they realised that the knife was enormous, apparently. I'm told by several officers it was the biggest knife that they'd ever seen at that point. And although it entered through his side, it went all the way through and the tip of the knife pierced his heart.
The man who was charged with the murder of your husband, Philip McFadden, was a diagnosed schizophrenic, as I mentioned earlier, and there was various court proceedings, but he appeared initially at High Court in Edinburgh. They were sent to the State Hospital in Carstairs, and then in 2000 he appeared again, charged with a murder, but he was found to be insane at the time, and then he was sent back to Carstairs for treatment. We know that he was released in 2006. We're told, or what we've learned, is that the treatment had been successful and he'd left Carstairs, we think, under some sort of new identity. We're not sure. What was your reaction when we were told that McFadden had been released with 12 years after Lewis's death?
I was content with what the officials were telling me. They met with me, they talked me through it, and they were all satisfied that the medication had worked, that he was now stable. And they explained to me that he would get something called a depot injection, which is oil-based and very slow released. But as well as treating the schizophrenia, it actually gave them a sort of synthetic high, and they feel so well taking this medication that the majority of people will continue with it. So I was I was satisfied as I could be that he was safe to be released. And in actual fact, he'd been in Carstairs longer than he probably would have been if he'd gone to prison.
If he'd been given a life sentence with a fixed term, the chance he may have been paroled by the...
Absolutely.
At the time, police officers, this is 1994, it may seem like a different era, but police officers had little or no protection apart from the traditional wooden truncheon. Most of them wore, like Lewis would wear a police hat and a tunic and a shirt, and that'd be about it.
Yeah.
The death of Lewis resulted in major changes in the way officers dressed, the protection they were given. Tell us about the changes that resulted from Lewis's death.
Yep. On the day of the incident, Lewis was armed with his wooden baton, sort of that long. Officers were pulling planks of wood out of a nearby skip to try and keep their distance from McFadden. So it was quite obvious that changes were very much needed. At the time, they were trialling a stab-proof vest, which became obvious again straight away that it wouldn't have prevented his death. They were like a tabard, so they were open at the side, which is where the knife penetrated. So the chief constable immediately abandoned those trials and started looking for a better alternative. But they were also trialling side-handle batons, which he immediately authorised because that would have provided the extra distance that they needed to keep themselves from him. So that came about very, very quickly. They then moved on to better handcuffs and various other things. So very slowly, it took a long, long time, but better protection did come in.
I mean, these changes have been adopted across Britain. Strathclyde police were quite, at that time as they were known, were quite innovative. Chief Constable then Leslie Sharp brought in a lot of these measures, but effectively it changed the way police officers looked, didn't they? They started wearing the cargo trousers, the stab-proof vests,
yeah,
and then the side-handle batons, the cuffs. We've also seen the introduction of pepper sprays as well, and tasers. I mean, it's revolutionised the way the police officers looked, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, slowly we're getting there, like CS gas, as you say, tasers, body-worn cameras. They received better training on how to deal with mentally ill people as well. There's always going to be more that they can do.
You would definitely like to see, you still think there's more needs to be done, even though that there's been a bit of a revolution last 30 years, the more protection needs. What sort of things would you like to see? I know you want to see all officers armed with tasers at the moment. I think in Police Scotland it's about 2,000 that are trained in the use. You'd like all officers trained in that.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, a taser would be a wonderful tool. It would have helped Lewis without any doubt that they could have neutralised McFadden, just temporarily, that they could have controlled him and stopped the situation very early on. Cameras, body-worn cameras, why we are still only at the rolling out stage, I don't know. You can go down to St Enoch Shopping Centre and the security guards all wear body cameras. But in Police Scotland, they're still only just starting
trialling it.
This rollout. It's not good enough. They should be given the money to provide our officers with whatever protection they can.
I mean, obviously the police have a budget, but this is something maybe needs to come even from the Scottish Government. There needs to be some sort of recognition that this is an incredible deterrent, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. It's protection for both the officer and the public. It works both ways, and it's a fabulous tool that will make things so much safer for all.
We have seen changes in the protection, but we've also seen the figures last couple of years, an increase in the number of assaults some quite serious assaults on police officers. So you think we need to move to the next stage where we have all officers armed with tasers and body cams? That needs to be the next stage.
Yeah, I would absolutely hate to see officers routinely armed here. I don't think it's necessary. But there are other things like the tasers that they could be using instead.
And tasers are optional. If the officers are trained, isn't necessary, or she don't necessarily have to use it, carry it that day. But there's that option, isn't there?
Yeah.
They have it. They're there, and they can take them out.
Yeah.
But you would like to see the rollout program accelerated and money provided so that it goes beyond, in the case of body cams, the trialling stage. You would like to see it rolled out quicker and sooner.
Yeah, the budgets have just been slashed everywhere. The Chief Constable is constantly raising this, and I fully support her on that. That the money should be there to provide our officers with the support they need and the protection that they need. As I said right at the beginning, they put their uniform on and go to work to protect the public. And we owe it to them to give them every tool that they need to do the job.
And provide the funds as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the aftermath of Lewis's death, what was life like? I remember we spoke in the past, you said it was all a bit of a blur. Mm-hmm. You don't remember that your son growing up in the early years. Talk a bit through that, how that impacted on you, on your life at the time.
Luke was 7 months old. I had no choice but to get out of bed every morning and look after him. He was probably my saving grace. But I have very few memories of that time. I don't remember his first words, his first tooth crawling. I have a baby book that I dutifully wrote everything in. But I don't have any memories of that.
One way of remembering Lewis, of course, is that I think it was last year the Police Scotland established the Lewis Fulton Trophy, and that's awarded to the best recruit. Tell us a bit about that. It's Scottish Police College.
The Training College, yeah. The Lewis Fulton Memorial Trophy is presented to the best officer safety recruit and first aid combined. It's a beautiful trophy, which is the one that the recruits always tell me that's the one that they want to win. They are told about Lewis when they join and the story behind the trophy. So they know what happened. They know how important it is, and they are very respectful of it.
Just finally, we're talking there about Lewis, but in talking about the need to make sure officers are protected, the most important thing is in providing the funding is to ensure we don't have another death like that of Lewis. And do you think had tasers been available or bodywork arm, that type of level of protection, you think Lewis would have still been alive if he had that level of protection then?
I think without doubt a taser would have solved the problem. Even a stab-proof vest, in those days they didn't have any form of protection like that. So even the vest would have helped him. Even if it had somehow managed to pierce the vest, it would have taken the force out of the blow.
That's really the message. That, if we want to avoid another Lewis Fulton case like Lewis Fulton, we need to spend the money, invest the money on protective equipment.
Yes, that is so important, and I will keep saying this as long as I can. That the government needs to give the money to Police Scotland to better protect our officers.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to our audience for tuning into Criminal Record. If you have a question for the team, you can email reporters@dailyrecord.co.uk with subject line Criminal Record. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, you can subscribe to listen to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts by searching for Criminal Record, or you can watch it each week on our YouTube channel. Thanks once again for joining us.